Hello everybody, welcome back to the United Stand. Manchester United securing third spot, and it's a sad day because it's going to be the last fan forum of the season, but we do end it on a win. Manchester United ending the season 3 wins on the spin, securing third, which is what I'd say a successful season. Yes, there have been many ups and downs, but overall, for what the majority of fans and pundits were predicting at the start of the season, it wasn't top 4 and it wasn't a trophy. So for me, top 4 and a trophy and a possible another one as well. We're in a cup final. I don't know if that's actually, I don't want to speak too soon on the final. I'll let Faz do that in a second. I know it's going to come up, but before we introduce the panel and the t-shirts we're wearing first, obviously head over to retrofootballkits.co.uk. 10% off site-wide, I still believe, right? And you can get an extra 10% off using the code TUS10. And we can introduce the panel, and look at these shirts, by the way.
Yes,
unreal.
Yes.
I think first off with the comments, what we should do is just whack comments in of what you think, what these kits actually remind you of, what player, because straight away, this screams Fellaini. We were saying that before.
Yeah, I said you've given me the Fellaini.
This one screams. That one's Ronaldo, to be fair, a little bit for me.
Yeah,
I mean, this one's. I was 2 years old, so for me, that one's a little bit before my time. And this one just.
Steve Bruce.
This one's a little bit. This one reminds me a little bit.
That's
Carrick.
That's Van Persie.
Van Persie's a good shout, yeah.
Steve Bruce.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer all day long.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a good one. Of course.
Yeah, a bit before my time, to be fair. Watched it on the repeat, but no, yeah, guys, 2-1 win. Faz, it was overall. I was lucky enough to be at the game today. It was an all right game. I mean, it's just one of those games that what we were kind of predicting. It was very hard to know what was going to happen when both teams don't really have anything to play for. Right, we're fighting for 4th or 3rd. And they're literally, I don't think, could move either way. It was more just revenge for them, I guess, to some degree. Mitrovic had an awful day. Nothing could go right for him. I thought he headbutted Malacia at one point.
I thought he was getting sent off.
Yeah, I thought he was going to get sent off again. But what did you make of just the overarching, end of the season? Everyone high spirits.
Firstly, I'm glad that nobody got injured or nothing like that happened. All the players are safe and okay. I'm glad that Casemiro didn't get a yellow card because I think that was one of the things, wasn't it? That apparently if you got a yellow card,
I don't think that was
I saw Mark tweet it, so I was like, I just didn't even research it. But I'm just glad that, like I say, no players injured. Everybody's gonna be okay, and it's very nice and important for the players and the fans to end the season on a win. That's very important, especially at home. You saw the crowd at the end of the game, how happy they were. In terms of the game itself, in all honesty, it was a bit upsetting that we conceded because I would have liked to finish with a clean sheet, even though David De Gea got his Golden Glove award to someone. You're watching from overseas, but still, it's just an okay game. There's little bits and bats that I can get into, but I don't want to be too harsh on the players. It's the last game of the season. Just glad Ten Hag had the mentality to say, in an interview he said he's not going to play some of the youngsters, that people may think. He's going to keep a strong team, and he did, fairly strong team, and go for the win, finish 3rd, and it kind of sets us up for next season. We could have ended up being 4th today, and people would have said, well, Ten Hag's first season, he came 4th. It's always nice to have a, nice number to be proud of. I know people might say standards are lowered, but our standards are based on what we are right now, and 3rd is very, very good on top of where City and Arsenal were competing. So yeah, very happy.
Overall,
and I predicted it.
We've kind of proven we're the 3rd best team in England at this current moment in time, right? You don't really finish, especially at the end of a 38-game season, you don't really finish in a position that you don't really deserve to be in. Liverpool in 5th, by the way. So, yeah. But also, it is, obviously, Kev's not here. Loads of people in the chat saying, where's Kev? Where's Ricky? Ricky's on holiday again somewhere, in all honesty. I don't know. Turkey, maybe, on, I don't know, a bender again. And it's Kev's birthday, so everyone can wish him a happy birthday in the comments. I have missed a comment. He did comment something, but I have missed it. But yeah, happy birthday to our Kev. We love Kev. Dave, though, says, you think Man United's fluidity lately is because of Sancho? I mean, we're all going to... Oh, God, there's so many comments coming in of Dave saves as well. So that's definitely Mark sending him over, by the way. We are going to talk about David De Gea. Screw it. We'll go straight into David De Gea because what I found interesting today is he actually showed a bit of personality after that penalty save. And I don't know if it took him doing that, because I guarantee you... And they're lying if they tell you they thought David De Gea was going to save that penalty.
No one did.
No one around me. As soon as we conceded it, everyone went, oh, it's 2-0. Because David De Gea normally 9 times out of 10 doesn't say what's his record. It's awful.
He's literally saved one pen.
Yeah, it is genuinely awful. So for him to save it, fair play, and kick the ball away and give a bit, didn't he? He was like, come on then. It was almost like he was trying to prove a point, to be like, you know, he's heard all the stick, he's heard all of it. But for him to and also off the back of that, when Maguire and stuff was trying to play short, and he's basically telling him to F off when he's just like, go away, all this, which is a little bit strange. But David De Gea is, I want to say, less than a month away left on his contract also. And I know what you guys are going to think in the comments. You're all going to want him to stay. But I want to put it across first to Usman. Would you have, not even David De Gea as your number one next season, because, of course, another goalkeeper could come in and fight for that spot. But would you have him around next season at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very consistent with the David De Gea situation. I think for me, if he's to stay, he needs to massively take a pay cut. I mean, the wages he's on, to be fair to him, when he actually got that contract, he was arguably our best player, if not our best player. I mean, he was the only reason we were somewhat respectable in the league in terms of our performances. But as it currently stands, he's on way too much money. I mean, I think it has massively affected the wage structure. Not just De Gea, there's other players that have come in and around that period as well after De Gea that have got wages that they don't really deserve. I mean, Sancho's on a ridiculous, lucrative contract as well. I just think we need to somehow get that wage bill down. I mean, for me personally, I'm not opposed to him staying. I do personally think we need a replacement. I do agree with a lot of what Beth has said. I'm sure she's happy she's not here. Of the fact that he saved a pen.
A lot of people in the comments asked him he's a ringer as well.
I'm sure
No. I'm actually gonna message her.
I don't know what
because she's watching.
I don't know what the time difference is.
I think it's 5 or 6 hours behind us.
Well, I'm just gonna text her. Wake up.
Listen, she's awake. We know that.
I saw she was tweeting throughout the game. You know, saying about David De Gea and stuff, but. No, in all honesty, I thought he played pretty good today. Made a few good saves, probably saves that you thought he was going to make, and he didn't. You know, there was no errors, there was no mistakes. So you know, fair play to him. I've always been of the opinion with De Gea is sooner or later he's going to have to be replaced, right? Within the next, even if you just put a 2-year window from this point. We desperately need a striker. We desperately need a midfielder. That's the priorities for me in front. So if we can get those done, and then you want to bring a goalkeeper, fair enough. But I would never want a goalkeeper over those two positions for me. That's just.
Can I just to add on to your point there? I think it's quite important that we do obviously notice the fact that when Arteta came in and when Pep came in, they both did the exact same thing. They got rid of the keeper. I mean, the Joe Hart one was similar to the De Gea in terms of his stature within the club. Yeah, he was very much seen as a legend, so to speak. Of course, De Gea is a legend for United as well. I do think there's a lot of parallels there, and obviously with Pep as well, you eventually got Bravo. That didn't work again, and then eventually hit the jackpot with Edison, and you saw the same with Arteta. For me personally, I actually rated Leonard quite highly. I thought he had a great season for Emery when Arteta actually came into the door, and for him to actually do that and obviously remove him and then eventually get Ramsdale as well. You know, it's not a coincidence that 2 possession-based managers have done that, and I think for me, although obviously De Gea is massively loved within the fan base, we've got to be ruthless, and I think I don't mind him staying if it means he's happy to obviously contribute to the team, so forth, but I don't think he should be the number 1 moving forward personally.
I disagree. I think he should be number 1 next season. I think he comes from a position of strength now. I mean, Golden Glove for the league, it is seen a little bit, and he will always say it. It's the defence in front of me is helping me keep these clean sheets, and that, to a degree, that is true. But you saw today some of the saves he was pulling off again. He still has that in his locker. He was playing it short. He was playing it long today. I agree with Usman in terms of, yes, he does need the contract. Will have to reduce in his wages. But let's be honest, the reason why we've got so many players on inflated wages, and wages probably not deserved to them coming into the club, Anthony's another one you can think of, it's because of the previous regime. Woodward was terrible at handing out contracts, and I don't think Murta and Arnold are any better than he is. But for me, I think we've got so many issues within this team, or so many holes we need to plug to take us to that next level. I don't think De Gea, for me, is high up on that list. I think we've got a lot more pressing issues. I'd be very happy. I think we do need to eventually address the issue, but I think he's one of many speed bumps that are further down the road for us. I think there's more pressing stuff we need to sort out, like especially the lack of goals.
Fair enough, fair enough. SB says Ricky is killing an all-inclusive buffet. I mean, he's all-inclusive beverages, I reckon. Slow Sports News says the War of the Roses is now over. Leeds have been relegated.
That was going to be my first thing.
Yeah, that's another one. Leeds obviously going down.
I mean,
guaranteed 6 points gone for us. I'm gutted.
It's been a downhill spiral ever since Bielsa left, really, hasn't it? Although it started spiralling, obviously, when he was still there. Barima says, but Ramsdale isn't good with his feet either. Changing a keeper isn't as easy. Like you just said, Pep had to try it twice. I mean, football changes and football adapts all the time. So it is difficult, but sooner or later, like whether you like it or not, De Gea's not immortal. Like, he's going to have to leave at some point, and we're going to have a new goalkeeper. So it's at what point, again, as you say, you address that issue. If you do, which I wouldn't do, address it ASAP. And that goes just because of our budget as well. Yeah. If we had 500 million, do you remember these reports that came out the other day? Man United's 500 million transfer budget. If we had 500 million, fair enough, then you go and get a keeper.
Exactly.
But because of this, whatever between 100 and 200 million, if you do have that, then I'm afraid probably for what you need elsewhere, you don't have enough money to go out there and get the keeper as well. Chris, member for 32 months, says absolutely buzzing. There seems to be a different type of atmosphere, to be fair. Risick says, glory, glory, Man United. Even in our darkest days, we still find light at the end of the tunnel. Stephen says, players get contracts based on what they will offer, not what they've done in the past. I think De Gea is smart enough to know that he needs a pay cut. I mean, De Gea would have been on what he was on because he was our best player for what? A 5-year stint, probably.
Yeah,
he was in however many
he was
Premier League team of the season.
Player of the season.
So, and that is what you get rewarded upon, right?
Absolutely.
If a player, there's the rumours of Lisandro Martinez getting a new improved contract, right? The same time, but a higher wage, and that is just performance based. So it'll be interesting.
I think that's wrong.
It'll be interesting
one
to see.
season to reward someone who's come in and had a really good first season. He's improved our team massively. That's the traps we fall in. You know, where does he go on from there?
It does depend, and I'm interested to see because a lot of, like Garnacho's one is meant to have a lot of performance base. So whether that new improved contract is maybe, I don't know what he's on a week. Maybe it's, say, just for argument's sake, he's on 150.
I think he's on 80, Martinez.
Is that okay? Say he was on 100, just as a round figure. Yeah. That you then maybe bump it to 120, but with performance kind of based incentives, it can increase to, if he gets clean sheets and stuff. Maybe that's an avenue they want to go down. Chris, who's been a member for 33 months, says, let's get this FA Cup wrapped up and get these Glazers out for good. SB says, Goalkeepers Union, Dave saves what others can't. This FA Cup thing, obviously at the end of the game when Erik ten Hag's doing that speech and he spoke for a bit and then the pause and everyone had a clap and then he went, but there's still one more game. Oh, that gave me goosebumps, by the way. I felt like some movie trailer. I was like, wow.
He's been listening to my speeches.
Yeah, he's finding inspo. Faz United Stand speech. Yeah, no, it was good because that, like, I don't know what it was. Not that everyone needs geeing up or reminding, but it is those little things, isn't it? It's that human thing. It's like, you're celebrating now, we finished third, but we've got one more game in less than a week's time or whatever.
It's great management, to do that. And you can imagine that's what he's like in the dressing room. He's very cool, collective. He knows exactly what he's saying. He says it at the right time. Like you say, he left that little pause and then it came in and the crowd went absolutely mad. I can't rave about this guy enough. The fact he wasn't in Premier League manager of the season in the top 6 is scandalous. And I've had arguments on Twitter about it all week because for me, the job he has done, we say he's got one more game to go. I believe in this man and he believes in the players and he's made us believe in them players again. And listen, I like you, I had chills and the hairs on the back of my neck was standing up.
It was good. It was good. But Faz, to round off this David De Gea point, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to put you on the spot because I'm not going to lie, you have fluctuated on this opinion.
Yes, I have.
Which is obviously, it's not a bad thing to do. Your opinion can change, of course it can. But David De Gea, as you stand right now, are you comfortable and happy with him being your number 1 next season?
No.
And why is that?
No. Seen enough this season. Done well. Done, astonishingly well. But what's done now is done. This is 22-23 season closed. We now need to go in 23-24 season, which means we now need to improve. And, you can improve certain areas of the pitch because they need improving and we're lacking goals and whatever. But Ten Hag has to think, how can he progress from third to second? Now we're not going to be in Europa. We're not going to be, with all due respect, facing Omonia, Sheriff, and etc. We will go and have to face the creme de la creme of Europe. And for that, you want to be playing a very specific type of football to go far in those competitions at all, even to make it out of group stage, let alone go far in those competitions. We can all be sitting here and saying, oh yes, sure, David De Gea can stay, which he can, but the type of football we want to play needs to be established. And at certain times this season, many a times this season, actually, I'll just say it as it is, we haven't had an identity when it came to playing our football because we don't have the players. He doesn't have the players. And we need to get those players in. And one of those players is the goalkeeping position. And it's just as simple as I can put it. I think I've seen enough this season to say, you know what, the type of football that this manager wants to play, the only way he can play this is if he has certain pieces of the puzzle. And it's almost like a span. You go from goalkeeper, centre-back, central midfielder, striker. And that's a very key position. It's the last person on your team who can see the pitch, who you can rely on the ball. And you need that. You do. David De Gea will take a wage cut. I've heard this report going around 250 is going to come down to 220 or whatever. And hopefully Manchester United have enough budget to go and get a keeper, because when else, if David De Gea can be a second choice option next season, he's a fantastic second choice. Like out of this world second choice. Name me another club that has a second choice keeper as good as David De Gea, if David De Gea becomes our second choice. And if we can go and get a number one for next season, I'll be more than happy. We've got hopefully another brilliant goalkeeper. We'll have two brilliant goalkeepers. So that'll be fine. If any time we need to bring David De Gea in, I'm sure he'll do a fantastic job.
I don't see that happening, unfortunately. I just don't see David De Gea thinking, regardless of taking a pay cut, I don't think he's ever going to see himself as a number two right now. I think, 31 is still quite young for a goalkeeper. I think we all agree that the goalkeeping position definitely needs to be improved, and we do need someone who is more progressive, who does fit the style of play Erik Ten Hag wants to play. There's too many factors that lets me believe that's just not going to happen, unfortunately. We don't have the money. We're not going to go and spend on what is required. I don't think our scouting system is good enough to find a cheap enough option for us to bring him in under a budget that we're going to have, unfortunately. So I think we're going to have to play the hand that we're dealt, and I think that means David De Gea staying as number one next season.
I just don't see as well him taking enough of a wage cut to warrant him sitting on the bench as well. Yeah. He's on 375. Even if he takes a wage cut to 200, are we going to pay 200 grand for a goalkeeper to sit on the bench? Is the only thing which. But we'll cut the negativity. Maybe the only other negative thing, and we'll get it out of the way. It's not really negative because you can put a positive spin on it. Probably Weghorst's last game for Manchester United, and he missed an absolute sitter.
But now in true form.
Absolute sitter. But when he came on, and I was sat next to a guy, and I went, "This guy tries so hard, but he is really, really shit." And he was like, "Who is it? Scott McTominay?" And I was like, he couldn't see me far enough, and I was like, "No, it's Weghorst," and he just hung his head and was just like, "Oh, damn it." And it was just Weghorst's fashion, wasn't it? To literally, you couldn't get an easier chance, really. Fall into imperfect. He knew everything about it and sticks it wide. And I think that sums up Weghorst's 6 months that he's kind of had at the club, doesn't it? And I was probably of the portion, minimal portion of people that I thought Man United would have signed Weghorst permanently. Not that I wanted him to, but I just thought he was very much just like a coach's player. Similar a little bit to what I look at Mason Mount. Not that Mount's obviously better than Weghorst, but like they're just workhorses. They just get on with anything. They'll do anything you ask of them. But no, I just don't. I don't see that happening at all. Weghorst isn't going to stay at United, is he?
No, he's not. And I've been saying this since he came, that he's not going to be a good enough striker. And listen, if that was a certain someone that we let go, people would have crucified that person. I just want to say it out there, because some people are out there who act like sheeps, and they go on in one player for the sake of just going in on one player. And people have this weird sort of love around Weghorst for some absurd reason, and he misses chances like that. If he's on the pitch, which I hope not, in Wembley, and he misses a chance like that, and that could have been our game, well...
This is why Manchester United fans are the best in the world, because they love to back any player that comes in the club. I've never known a player come in and us not back them. I mean, you hear the cheer that Harry Maguire got today. He still gets a bigger cheer. He wasn't getting so many cheers after the penalty.
We also like to throw someone under the bus, and we've done that
that's
season
we
now.
do scapegoat a lot
Yeah.
as well.
Not at Old Trafford though. Not the fans that go to games. That's never happened. And Weghorst come in under what we know to be really bad circumstances, because the manager's not been backed correctly by the club to bring in a replacement for two strikers that we've lost in Ronaldo and Cavani. So they were always going to back him. Yes, we know he's not good enough. Yes, we know he doesn't fit the profile of a player that we think should be playing for Manchester United. But it had all them elements of Ighalo, and he was Ighalo without the goals, basically. And I didn't want Ighalo here because I thought that was another shocking signing for Manchester United to be making. I mean, he did what Faz says he does a lot. He slide tackled that chance and still missed it, which is shocking. And
he always finds a way to fall on the floor, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, big time. He loves it. He absolutely loves it.
It is strange. It is strange.
I've never rated him. I mean, I've sat on this panel on numerous occasions where certain individual call him Ruud van Weghorst. I mean, feel free to go back. You can see the disgust when that was happening. Look, at the end of the day, can't really get onto him too much. He wasn't really there to be that bona fide striker. That was Martial's job. Let's keep it real. Martial's the one that's let us down, not Weghorst. I mean, he's been injured consistently. I can sit and criticise Weghorst, but the truth of the matter is I never thought he was good enough for the club.
He never should have played as many games.
But at least he was fit.
Anyway,
in his defence, he was fit. I've never rated him personally, but like I said, that was Martial's mantle and he bottled it. So at the end of the day, look, for me, it is what it is. He's a Besiktas and Burnley reject, essentially. Where was Martial when we needed him? Rashford had to step up, and he did it to the best of his ability. So can't really criticise someone that I don't think is good enough. It is what it is. Wish him all the best, but he just cost my boy Sancho an assist, which I was fuming about. So, but yeah, it is what it is.
And then he gets signed for next in the summer, and he stays for another 2 years. So.
I think the thing for me is, I'd actually rather Weghorst was lazy, so it'd make it easier to call him out on stuff. It is just he misses chance, so Sancho sometimes, times today, nutmeg someone but give it away, or do something and then give it away, and that's more infuriating than missing a sitter, but working really hard and winning the ball back all the time. Visually, I think it's easier to almost be annoyed at someone for giving the ball away rather than missing a sitter, especially when you're in that situation when you've already kind of won the game. But Kevin Burrell says, FA Cup versus City, Lindelof in Ericsson role, Shaw centre-back.
Wow.
I mean, that's in what world? Wow. So some of the comments here are saying what world we live in. What world are you living in?
Someone's been celebrating earlier.
Yeah. Keel Robinson says, Wout has won more medals this season than CR7.
Can't argue with facts.
There was that tweet, wasn't there? That
and how many Ballon d'Ors and how many Champions Leagues and how many goals. I think Ronaldo has more goals than Wout has appearances on the pitch.
That's probably true.
Very. I don't even think it's probably close. Darren Mulaney says, what players would you like to come to United in the summer, and what keeper would you go for to fight for the number 1 shirt? I mean, that is long-winded, isn't it? Yeah. Quickly, I mean, what players very much determines what budget we have. But I'd just go for. I mean, Harry Kane is just the obvious one. I think for me, you guys all know that Harry Kane's the guy.
Agreed.
I love Harry Kane. And then, but ultimately, how much is your budget? If it's 150 and you go and get, there's reports coming out from Ornstein, wasn't there? Harry Kane's going to cost a lot more than 100 million. Well, then you're not going to go and get Harry Kane, then are you? So you go and get a Højlund or a Vlahovic or someone like that. It is all hindsight, and we'll be sat here when the start of the season rolls around and the transfer window's coming to an end, and we might have Kane, we might not even have we might have the 4th choice in centre back, centre mid, striker, whatever. It is all hindsight, but it is what it is. What MFW says couldn't even win the Saudi League. I mean. Yeah, I prefer not to speak. But Casemiro today went off, received a standing ovation, didn't he? I mean, Casemiro is pivotal to what Ten Hag and Manchester United have been, let's say, trying to achieve, because I don't think we haven't achieved really anything in a sense of identity in football yet. We're still having to very much, I guess, yes, you adapt to your opponent, but we're doing it like drastically, right? Like we'll go and play City, we won't play anything like we played today, right? And I don't think we played even that good today. But Casemiro is the big time spine in that team, and I mean, Faz, Casemiro is what did we pay for him? 70 million.
70 million
for a 30 what is he? 30-year-old midfielder. Everyone said we overpaid, which we probably did in the hindsight. But I'd pay double that for the player that we've got right now. I think he's been absolutely phenomenal. But what do you see? Because there's a midfielder that needs to be brought in next to him that takes him up another level. Well,
I think one of the things you saw today, he lost the ball. One of the times someone just came from behind him and just took the ball. I remember Everton game, Onana did that to him as well. He's not. You can't have a player like him having him on the ball. You can't. You need someone that he can pass the ball.
Do you think he's trying to do too much?
Yes, that's
too many jobs.
Yeah. See, he's like a surgeon. He's a specialist at what he does. He anticipates. He makes great tackles, and he passes, moves the ball on. That's his job, and he's probably the best in the world at doing that. But you're asking him to do things that isn't part and parcel of his arsenal, and that's where the problems start coming in. He may start making rash challenges. He may start, giving the ball away, making erratic passes. Some of his passes, though, this season has really pleased me. I'm like, no way, I didn't know Casemiro could ping the ball like that far. But I think it's one of those positions where you need someone who he can rely on, because not always will he save you, and sometimes when he does seem like he's going to save you, he's going to get booked. And this next season, we don't want to see what's happened this season with the suspensions. We definitely don't. And don't forget, he's aging. He's going to be 30 plus. So we eventually need to find someone who can, be his understudy as well. We can't be looking after 30-year-olds all our life, So great player, top signing. I think he's got another season or maybe two if we push it. But again, next season, he needs a very, very, very good midfield partner in there to help him kind of bring out his A game all the way through, because this season it's been really high, but then sometimes it's been a bit low as well. And that's what we want to avoid in the Champions League. And like I say, I'm thinking of, we've come third, how can we now get to second? How can we now get to, hopefully, maybe try and push for the title? And in 4 competitions, he can play so many different games with all different oppositions, so good. But like I say, another midfielder is needed, and I don't think Eriksen is going to be that guy.
Is it Caicedo?
Has to be. It has to be someone young. You look at Real Madrid's midfield, they have a balance in the age as well. Yeah. They have a balance of
go from
energy.
One extreme to the other, didn't they?
Yeah,
Modric,
exactly.
38 to Camavinga and Chouameni.
Exactly,
now,
right?
Probably Bellingham.
I obviously hate to compare it to Real Madrid, but that's just the standards that they have set, and that's what we want to be doing. We want to get someone around Caicedo's age, of his profile. He's basically the perfect player that we could bring in. Very good on energy, no problem if he gets pressed, good on the ball, confident in carrying the ball, passing the ball, receiving, all of these things that him and Casemiro would just flourish together in Man United. And that's the type of, don't forget, that's the type of football we want to play. So you can have other midfielders, but the type of football we want to play, Caicedo and Casemiro would be, perfect, absolutely perfect.
I think Casemiro has shown this season that he is really a really talented footballer rather than just an enforcer and breaks up the play. I think even today there was some outstanding balls. There was that one for Rashford which he just couldn't latch on the end to in the second half. And I agree, he does need that person to help him. I think it'd be interesting. I think Caicedo might just be out of our reach, unfortunately. I don't think he's a player United will get. If the rumours are true about Declan Rice, I'd be really interested to see that partnership, because I think he can then cover for Casemiro. If Casemiro decides to get a little bit more forward and play those balls. We've seen him score quite a few goals this season, which is really pleasing to see for a midfielder that's meant to be your anchor and holding down the defensive side of your midfield. But he's crying out for someone who is more reliable on the ball and can have a bit more legs. Eriksen, for me, seems lacking in that area. Fred, we know, is massively unreliable. But I think he's been, I have Bruno as my player of the year, and I think he just misses out for me. I think he's transformed Manchester United. He's been, crying out for what we've needed for a very, very long time. And I think you saw, speaking to fans before we went into the game today, because he was playing, how worried we were that if anything happened and he's not there, it happened at Arsenal. If it was happened again in the final.
Ricky was saying, is it you just don't risk it because you don't, especially you've got Paulinho on the pitch for Fulham, who's a bit of a loves a tackle as well, and you put two of them together, and it could have came out a bit feisty, but
that's the position we find ourselves in, that we have to keep relying on certain players. You know, Bruno is another one, Rashford is another one, and like you say, we need now to jump past third to second, and then eventually look into first. We need to get them quality replacements in, so these players aren't always running out of energy or having to play all the games.
Yeah, MGT says, Charlie, can you hit the griddy if we win the FA Cup? I'll hit more than the griddy, lad. It'll be going off. But one thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that we actually finished the season third with plus 15 goal difference. And we mentioned about striker, and it's quite obvious that we need a striker, but I've never known. We scored 58 goals, conceded 43. To finish third with 15 plus 15 goal difference, that's mad.
Yeah,
that is
it's impressive.
Yeah,
says a lot about our defence.
Yeah,
it does, doesn't it?
And goalkeeper Beth.
You had to get the goal.
It's coming, isn't it? I mean, that was good though, to be fair, because when De Gea got his Golden Glove, he made sure that he got everyone else in as well, which I think. If he was just like, bagger off, it'd be a bit mad, wouldn't it? But and this is another good point, is you're mentioning, obviously, now we need to push to second to first. What does next season's success look like in comparison? Take the FA Cup final out of it. Say that we're not even there. Don't even think about it. So we've got the Carabao Cup, a trophy, and third. Would we be happy with the same next season?
No. We have to... I'll let you go, mate. Sorry.
No, I think for me personally, we just have to be competitive. Obviously, top four should always be a given. I don't really... once you become an established club, I don't really look at top four as an achievement. It's more... you should be in and around top... Yeah, exactly. It should be in and around that sort of conversation. I think trophies is the most important thing. That's basically what the club and the foundations of the club are. I think we need to be competitive, firstly, but secondly, we need to be trying to win another trophy. Of course, we've got the Carabao Cup in the bag. We have got the FA Cup potentially to win as well, but I just think we need to kick on. We do need a couple of players that are going to take us to that next level. It'll be interesting to see if we can make that jump to obviously bridge the gap to Arsenal and Man City. But look, for me personally, I'm going to say something that might sound absolutely ridiculous or a hot take. But if we had Harry Kane this season, I generally think we would have been above Arsenal. Generally, I think the fact that we've come third with the lack of goals that we've scored is absolutely ridiculous. We know the saying goals change games. There's been so many games that we've literally there's been one goal in it, essentially. A player of Kane's calibre on the ball and obviously his ability to score, it would have just changed the game so many occasions. He scored 30 goals in a relatively poor Tottenham team, and that's without the chances he's created. God forbid if you had Kane up top instead of Weghorst. The levels are absolutely astronomical. I genuinely think we were a top striker away from actually being competitive this season. And I'm not saying that's going to be the case next year, because I do expect the other teams around us to improve, the Newcastle, the Liverpool and so forth. But I just think we're a couple of signings away from being competitive, and I think moving forward, we have to be in the conversation with the title race. I'm not going to say Ten Hag's job is on the line, or if he doesn't obviously meet that criteria, but I think it's only the right step. You've seen with other teams, I suppose Arsenal are the greatest example. If they can go from fifth to being in the title race, I don't see why we can't, especially with the base that he has created this season. So for me, has to be competitive in the league, i.e. in the title race, up into the latter stage of the season, and needs to win another trophy. The Carabao Cup is all well and good, but we need to be competing with the big boys, for me personally.
I think, this season, we've played in all but 3 games we could have possibly played in this season. And I think that's not going to happen every season, but considering how condensed this season has been and how packed it is, a World Cup, a World Cup in between. So that next season, we're not going to be playing on top of each other as much. But like you say, we want to be progressing far in the Champions League. I want to see us get past the group stage and get as far as we can in that. And also, actually, competing for the league, that's the next step. This team has to show, and this manager has to get out of this team, because what was it, a week when we thought we was in for it a little bit. We need to go on there now, and I think cup competitions are cup competitions. You never know who you're going to get. Some say we've been very lucky this season, but trophies are always nice. I always want to win every trophy Manchester United are in, but the next step for this team now is to prove themselves in the Champions League and actually fight for a title. We've not done it for 10 years.
Yeah, Barima says besides Kane, Caicedo needs to be our priority.
Definitely.
I mean, we can go on for hours about what signings we need to make, because there is a lot of signings that do need to be made. But Faz, and actually, what we'll do, I want to get a poll because I want to get your guys' thoughts. I don't really know how we'll do it, and we'll just put it on. Ryan can sort it out. But something along the lines of what does success look like for Manchester United next season? Obviously, because next season we might. There's loads of different ways, because you might finish out the top 4 but win the Carabao Cup and FA Cup. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that then because it's 2 trophies? Probably not, because then you miss out on various other things. I don't know. It's a difficult one, but do Manchester United now? Does next season need to be a title charge to some degree? I don't know.
We won't be. I don't think we'll be in any position to go in a title charge, because look at what happened to Arsenal, right? They were almost just going on vibes. They didn't even. People thought they were serious, but I never thought they were serious. I've always said that they're not going to win the title, because
they got to be. They were top of the league for 200 odd days.
Okay, but the thing is that there's no accolade for it.
No, of course not.
There's no accolade. You win. You go and push for the title when you have an extremely heavy depth squad. Yeah. You need squad to go, because you're not just competing for Premier League. I mean, you have 4 competitions, and my manager is a madman. He's not gonna throw any competition under the bus. He treats every competition like it's the best competition in the world, and that's how it should be.
Yeah.
And for that, if we want to, you're mentioning Premier League, if we want to go, I'm just happy if we go from 3rd to 2nd. And I know, yes, if you're 2nd, you're competing for the title, but there can be points gap as well.
Just quickly, while I remember, someone just put a comment in, which is quite good. Luke says 85 plus points and a semi-final in the Champions League. Now, do you actually look at it less from, because it depends on obviously how other teams finish, but less from a position point of view, but more like a point, improving on your points tally next season as well?
That's a very good
because
point.
we could get 80 points, 5 more points than what we've had this season, but still finish in the same place. Just the teams above you might have...
I would say an improvement is to be within at least 10 points of the top team. So it's not necessarily finishing...
So we're 14 points.
Yeah. So if we can get down to...
We've got to close the gap, haven't we?
Close that, because you're closing the gap. You're closer to the top. And that sounds like, you've been there or thereabouts within the season for me.
I just want to say, the thing is, it's not that it's totally unachievable as well. If you just think of Palace, for example, Palace game, if you think of Brentford, Brighton, just the odd games that we have, somehow managed to not come away with 3 points.
Newcastle at home.
Newcastle. Yeah. The odd games that we could have done better.
Chelsea away, the draw.
Yeah, Chelsea away, the draw. When he brought in Kovacic and the game changed. Yeah. Certain odd games, if we had collected 3 points, we would have been actually past the 10-point mark. We would have been much closer. So it's one of those things. We could be, but don't forget, in this particular season, things have been very weird, because 2 of the big boys have been absolutely horrible. Mm-hmm. Liverpool and Chelsea, who've obviously, I call them as OnlyFans FC. They have spent so much money and ended up at bottom mid-table in an almost relegation battle at one point. Yeah. So don't forget, them 2 will be looking at pushing.
They actually are bottom half of the table.
Yeah, shocking, isn't it? Actually, shocking. You have to accept your cookies to be able to see them. But next season, obviously, they'll be looking, Klopp and whoever ends up with Chelsea are going to be looking at trying to push for the top 4. So there'll be a bit more competition as well. I wonder how Newcastle are going to pan out. They've not been in Europe, top flight European football. So that's another new thing for them. Arsenal are not built for Europe. We know that already. Yeah. So it's a mix. But like I said, I think he mentioned a very good point. Points. Get more points than what you have this season. Exactly. That is a much better success. But next season, Carabao Cup is important, because it's always the first cup.
Retain.
I always like winning the first trophy. Yeah. So get the Carabao Cup. This year we're gonna win the FA Cup and then do that again.
Sorry, I was just reading through
next season.
Reading through some Maguire quotes that are just coming out, saying the season's not finished yet, but up to now it's been a positive season from where we were, and I must say we're making progress. It's been a big improvement and it's a step in the right direction. Securing Champions League football, it's a brilliant season in the Premier League, especially at Old Trafford. It's been an amazing season at Old Trafford, and obviously our away form is something we've got to improve upon. Obvious, right? Especially against the top teams, right? And it's not even like we've just lost against the top teams, not we've been knobbed, like absolutely
slapped,
knobbed against the top teams, which is something that needs to be improved upon. But we will move on to Maguire because it's someone that I wanted to talk about. I don't think he had a bad game today, but one thing, obviously, Maguire could not put a foot wrong, but you cannot tell me there is not a difference when he plays on that pitch instead of a Varane or Martinez. He brings Lindelof down to a different level, like awful, like that. There's a reason they were, you have McFred and then you have the Chuckle brothers at the back, like that was, and Lindelof has proven to be unbelievable when partnered with whoever it may be, whether he's playing with Shaw, whether he's playing with Varane. But you put him with Maguire and they just want to pass back and forwards to each other. Yep. And Maguire's slow, he never wants to pass into midfield. I don't know if it's him not trusting his own abilities, and fine, he didn't necessarily need to and he never made a mistake. But when we know we have players that can do it.
The penalty was...
Well, I mean passing, sorry.
Well, it was the pass, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah, he passed it straight to their player.
Oh, okay, I don't know.
That ran through on goal and Casemiro had to take one for two.
Well, I mean, there you go. The point that I'm saying stands. But no, I mean, is Maguire still here next season?
It all depends on his own, what would you call it, ambition. I think he likes to be a Manchester United player. We've seen players come to this club who
he won't be the captain though, will he?
Who like to start.
I would like to be a Manchester United player.
Yeah, I would like to.
I know you would. That's true.
Would you like to be a Manchester United player?
Sorry, lads. No one's knocking on your door offering it.
No, I heard Faz is a decent striker.
No one's. I've seen him outside.
I've been doing mileage.
There's a reason he's doing.
I've seen that sprinting lad. You're faster than Maguire though, so I'll give you that. That's true. But I think it depends on his own ambition. He's got a few years left on his contract. He likes the start of being a Manchester United player.
The England thing comes into it with him?
No, because he's still getting picked.
Yeah, that's mad.
He's still getting picked, so it doesn't matter.
He does well for England, but I
don't care for England. I
can't lie. I do not agree with anything that you just said.
Why?
It's not up to Maguire. It's up to Manchester United. Get it, rip his contract.
Phil Jones.
I don't care about Phil Jones.
So Phil Jones has been here for how many years?
Yeah, but that was
we could never get rid of it. We could never get rid of him.
Phil Jones is the perfect example of how poorly Manchester United are being run as a club.
But what you need to remember now is that players hold the power. He's got 3 years left on the contract.
I don't care. Do what you got to do to get him out the door.
They can't force him.
They've got to force him out the door.
I hope so. I hope that is true. I hope
Maguire should not have
Ten Hag says, listen, you are now fifth choice, because he is fifth choice. Shaw plays ahead of him.
Let me ask you a question then. So let's say Maguire's at Real Madrid, right? I know that sounds ridiculous, but the point I'm trying to make is if he's at Real Madrid and he's played the way he's done, that player does not have power. They are forcing him out that door.
Yeah, because they're run properly. We're
absolutely,
not.
And that's the issue.
I want him to go. I'm not saying I want him to stay.
Basically
he should go.
He should go and get rid of Maguire.
He's 30 years old. He should go and play first team football somewhere else. Absolutely. But what I'm saying is I don't trust that he is ambitious enough to go and do that. I just don't think he will. I think he'll believe in himself to stay and try and win his place back at some point, wait on an injury, wait on a suspension, and try and come back in and play well. But we've seen when he does that he's average at best, and that's being kind. I would love him to go. I can't wait for the day he no longer plays for this club. I just don't believe in the facts that he will. That's simple as that.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see kind of what does happen with him, because I think he's probably the first big name, apart from the ones who aren't at the club and the obvious ones, right? Who, your Alex Telles, your Bailly. He's like the first squad player that you probably go, yeah, let's cash what we can cash in on him, right? But it'll be interesting because you sometimes hear reports that him and Scott McTominay and Martial are like the main three that are going to kind of head towards the exit door. But I just don't know. I just don't see. There's probably 8 to 10 names that need to leave Manchester United. I just don't see them all going in one window. No. So you got to get rid of the ones that aren't at the club, right? Because they're just wasted money. And as much as you might think Maguire's wasted money, like he's just been a squad player this year, and as much as he's not been a very good squad player.
But would it not make sense to get rid of the ones that you can actually accumulate some funds for? I mean, you mentioned Bailly and Telles. I mean, you can run down the contracts, whatever they may be, but for me, Maguire, you can still get 30 to 40 million of him. I mean, Everton have stayed up. They need a centre back. I mean, he'll suit Everton to an absolute T.
No,
I was gonna try and sell him. Are you a team that play 5 at the back?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Would you like England starter?
Southgate needs to get the sack from England and come to the Premier League. I guarantee he's been first signing. Maguire would be Southgate's first signing.
Scott McTominay.
I think Maguire would do well in France, maybe, or Italy.
I don't see him as a moving abroad.
Another small.
He'll do great in Italy.
Yeah, he would do great in Italy.
He loves shepherd's pie and fish and chips. He's not going and having.
Listen, nothing wrong with
pasta.
shepherd's
Or maybe
I love
Greece.
it. He's not having that.
Maybe Greece. I don't know.
I think he's banned from it.
Yeah, ooh, I forgot about that. Darren Mulaney says, I would like to see Van der Sar come as director of football or someone as good as him to help Ten Hag get the right players in. We can all dream. I mean, it's not going to happen, is it?
Well, he's getting booed by their fans, so he might be on the way out. Yeah, apparently.
Oh, you'd love to see it. Snap him up.
There was a Q&A put in instead of that poll, by the way, and some of the questions that came in for the success was Prosper said 85 points in the Champions League semi-final.
Wow.
There was one that says title push, at least quarterfinals of the Champions League.
Agreed.
Going deep in the Champions League, FA Cup, and try and push City. Top 4 Champions League round of 16. Another trophy minimum. We cannot let standards drop. Champions League semi-final and 80 points. Win the Premier League. New ownership, commitment from current players. Minimum 5 transfers and minimum a Champions League trophy. Minimum. That's young JMD.
Shout out.
JMD.
Minimum Champions League trophy. Well, I mean,
We've all got dreams, yeah.
yeah. You if you don't
Listen, if Chelsea win it that time, we can win it. It's still
shoot for the
possible.
stars, aim for the moon type thing, isn't it? Yeah, one of them ones. But no, Harry Maguire. I feel like 99% of people are happy to get rid of him. It's just I just don't see Man United getting rid of everyone they want to get rid of. So you've got to give at some point, right? And we need another centre back if he goes, right? Same with Lindelof. If we're all sat here, Lindelof, none of us probably want Lindelof to leave now, but Lindelof seems more ambitious to me to the point of wanting first team football.
If Maguire stays, Lindelof is 110%.
And probably would go out to a Serie A club or a French team to play first team football. So that's the worrying thing is, and you probably wouldn't get as much money for Lindelof, maybe, which sounds silly, but
I think the club would prefer to sell Lindelof than they would sell Maguire. I think they'd rather keep Maguire. And
is that because they invested
80 million?
double the money? I don't know what Lindelof was.
And I think I think it was like 30, 35 was it for Lindelof? And I think, depending on the owner situation, if it is the Glazers and Sir Jim that stay and the debt is still there, he's still listed as an £80 million asset against that debt. So he doesn't go anywhere, and we're stuck with him, unfortunately, Usman, I'm afraid.
Nah. Listen, we finished in third. Let's stick to the high notes, yeah. Let's concentrate on the
been a good day.
No, you just put a downer on
Yeah, I
everything.
know.
Yeah.
No, listen. Can
we talk about Fred?
Cup final.
No, we're
Faz,
going to talk
Sancho.
about Bruno Fernandes.
Get the speech up, Faz. Get the speech up.
Bruno
Lift the
Fernandes, probably, I don't know what, 60-70% people's player of the year this season,
captain.
I'd say. He's been phenomenal. Yes, infuriating at times. Some of his decision making on the odd occasion is like, wow, well, what have you seen there? You know, but that is him, isn't it? You know, he is infuriating. Sometimes he stays on the floor a little bit more, but that is what you get. That is win at any cost. Like he doesn't care about what anyone really thinks about him. Everyone in that stadium loves him. I don't really ever see Bruno hate after like a game or anything. It's always like during a game, if he like doesn't do something, it's like Bruno. But like afterwards, when he's like redeemed, scored, got an assist, whatever, like everyone,
I
it's all
literally
forgotten about.
tweeted that he's not having a good game and he scored about a minute later. Literally all the mentions are like, oh, what are you saying now?
Yeah, like I mean Bruno, and it might actually be a video for someone to do down the line on the United stands, talk about obviously like their awards, who they'd give their awards to and that. But is Bruno Fernandes? Because what's your opinion on Bruno Fernandes? Are you very...
Yeah, I was very critical of him at the start of the season. But I think going forward, I've started to like him more. And look, one of the things that I've appreciated about Bruno Fernandes is that man can just play and play and play and play and play. And that sort of attribute is you can't buy that. That's just you have it. And he's a proper leader. He can play 90 minutes he can play 3 times a week, no problem. And you know what? I think he's one of those players that you just want in the changing room. He's got that mentality where he can keep the youngsters humble. He's got that type of mentality where the senior players will respect him, and you want that sort of person in your squad. My concern a little bit is I would like him to have more contributions in terms of scoring goals. I think it would help. Just look at Arsenal side, for example. You know, there's Odegaard. He's scored a good few goals, and it does help. But I'm hoping he can work on that for next season. Another one of concerns.
Do you think that would come more with a better number 9 if he can play off, like a Harry Kane?
Listen,
I think if Harry Kane came, I think you'd see his goal.
Do you think he
actually
needs to work on it though? Because we have seen him, he has
He's
scored.
got 28.
His goal
I think one of the things is his shooting used to be really good when he first came into Manchester United, but his shooting recently has been a bit hit and miss. Yeah. Sometimes it's like amazing Fred assist, really good.
It's them easy chances.
But
Spurs the last game on Chelsea, he's through on goal, place it, levers it, and whacks the bar.
Some of them. He could have picked up another 4 or 5 goals here and there if he was a bit more sharper. But I think one of the things that we must address is, again, he is aging as well. He's not in his, how old is he now? 29?
Don't know. Let's have a look.
28,
Yeah, listen, I'm older than him, man. You need to stop with the ages and stuff, man. He's still got legs.
But for his position and the amount of games he plays,
28.
The mileage adds up. So okay, 29 going into 29. Okay, still got a few years to go. But I think overall next season I would prefer Bruno Fernandes just to have a bit more numbers on the board. That's it. Other than that, everything else is perfectly fine. And the thing about people complaining about him moaning, please, if you're watching this and you're one of those people, stop it. Get off his back. Certain players, they need to moan. Certain players, they're programmed like that. And sometimes they get checked by their colleague, like Sancho did it to him the other week. And sometimes some players need it, like Garnacho. When he went and kicked Garnacho, and Garnacho commented saying, I needed it. And you see, certain training pictures where he's got his arm around Kobe Mano and the youngsters. You need someone who can be expressive. He's also mentioned himself that he had a go at Malacia at one point, and Malacia was telling him that, why are you having a go at me? This is when Malacia first came into Manchester United. This is his way of communicating, and you can't ask for someone to change who they are. This is how he is, and I love him for how he is. So
the people that are moaning must have never seen Peter Schmeichel and Roy Keane play for Manchester United, because that's all they did was moan. That's what captains do. That's their job. If the players around them were doing their job, do you think he'd be moaning? Absolutely not. Yes, it may look extreme at times, and it may look like he's going a bit too far. Like you say, that's his personality. That's the type of player he is. He's communicative, and when things aren't going his way or the team's way, he's going to let you know about it. And that's what I want from my captain. We've had captains that don't say anything or don't seem like they communicate enough within the team. Don't show that leadership. He shows it every single time on the pitch by what he says and what he does as well. And I think, like I say, my player of the season, he's my captain. He deserves all the plaudits he's getting, and he's a pinnacle to this team and how we've performed this season.
Yeah, very, very good player. Ten Hag, a few quotes coming out from Ten Hag actually. He was asked about January transfers.
By January.
I don't know if that's right. It says Ten Hag on January transfers. We've seen it in the winter. I don't know if that's meant to be summer transfers. All the clubs around us made huge investments. We didn't, but we.
I think he's probably alluding to the fact that we brought in some bits.
Say again, Ryan. Oh, the January just passed he's on about. Right, okay. We've seen it in the winter. All the clubs made huge investments. We didn't, but we still made it. I'm so proud of the team. Right, gotcha. And then this is the mentality of Ten Hag. He says they're in tomorrow because we have the Player of the Year charity gala. Talking about mentality, didn't even read it properly. We have our days off, relaxed, but we have 1 week to go, and we will use the days to prepare for the game as possible. We'll move on, and we'll end the show. We've got about 8 minutes left, so huge game at the weekend. Like, it's a non-negotiable that we beat Man City, right? Non-negotiable. It is win at any cost off the referee's bum. Something I don't care. Score a goal, and then don't concede one. That is it. But Faz, I'm hoping that you're going to whip some speech out of nowhere and inspire the.
We need to think about there are some great men who played for this club. There are great men who died playing for this club. This club was built on brick by Sir Alex Ferguson. The history, the trophies, the games, you know, the moments that some of these players from the academy, some of these fans, you know, you saying you were 2 years old when this shirt was around. There's a lot that is surrounding this club that needs to be protected. And not just because it's Manchester United, but because of the sake of football. What it means to football in itself. The fact that we are the only team that can say, you know, have this bragging right over everyone. And the fact that you, Marcus Rashford, Malacia, Dalot, Shaw, De Gea, you could be that person that says, I protected the DNA. I protected the surname. I protected the heritage, the pride, the honor, the dignity. I was there. You will be in history in my time, anyways, because I can go and tell my nephews and nieces when they're born, you know, yours as well, your kids. I can tell them, look what these players achieved. They stopped. It's not about. I keep saying it's not about winning on June 3rd. It's about stopping. They, like I said, they come in on horseback to raid the village, and we must protect what's ours, and it's rightfully ours. And Sir Alex Ferguson is still alive. At no cost can we afford this. Whilst the man is still alive, who will be there? The man who created this club. He's the owner of this club. I look at him like the owner, the godfather, the god, everything. He's my everything. He's alive and he will be there. At no cost can we lose that game. Impossible.
One of my best moments as a Manchester United fan was '99. I'm a little bit older than you, Charlie, so I'll say I was there. I was at the parade. I walked alongside the bus while all these idols, these players I long to be liked, or like and emulate. Obviously, I didn't because I didn't play football, but I was there for the treble parade. I saw it. I saw those 3 trophies lifted by these players. I don't want, and these players shouldn't want, and everyone who supports Manchester United shouldn't want Manchester overrun with blue from people from Stockport, showing 3 trophies that we have done as Manchester United. Manchester City can't be allowed to do this. And then players, like Faz has said, need to look at themselves, and when they turn up, they need to do the job. Sir Alex Ferguson said, you know, a famous quote from that Champions League final where he says, you know, imagine how you're going to feel if you walk past that trophy and you can't touch it because you've lost. Ten Hag just needs to say, imagine Manchester City win the treble and you know you couldn't stop it. That's all he has to say. And that should put the fire in their bellies to go out next Saturday and get the job done. That's all we need. Like you say, protect our DNA and our heritage.
It's huge. I feel like this is a mentality hurdle that needs to be overcome. I think the fact that we have shown resilience, but at the same time we've not bottled games, but you know, we haven't shown up for games. The Liverpool, the City 6-3, you know, even at the start of the season, these games where we've been absolutely turned over, and now this game on Saturday is huge for that mentality. And I just think genuinely, I don't even think that Ten Hag would need like a pre-game. Shouldn't have to have a pre-game like speech before. I don't think he need to say a word, because they should all know individually how big this game actually means to the fans, everyone surrounding Manchester United. And if they don't know that, then they don't, you know, kind of understand everything.
We could lose June 3rd, right? And then it comes down to Lautaro Martinez, Lukaku, Dzeko, who might have a vengeance against Pep. But it won't be. I won't be able to sleep at night knowing Inter Milan did the job and we didn't. I don't know if there's
both do the job.
Yeah, but I don't know if there's any mathematician in the chat. But what was the probability of Manchester United versus Manchester City in a final to stop the treble? Like, could anybody have predicted this? Because I never thought in a million years this would happen. The probability is almost like 1 in a billion. So each and every one of those players that are going to be in that squad, they really need to understand the size, the colossal size of this game. Like I say, I actually couldn't care less about the trophy on that day. For me, it's not even a final. For me, this is, like I say, they're coming to take was ours, and it's impossible. It's actually, I can't even fathom it. It's impossible. Because if it was Man City versus Liverpool or Man City versus Chelsea or whatever, I would have been like, well, it's not in our hands. But if it's in your hand, and especially for the fans that are scared because they did something to Real Madrid, well, what did we do to Barcelona? Have some pride. Yeah, have some pride. What did we do to City at Old Trafford? Have some pride. What did we do to Arsenal in Old Trafford? Have some pride and honour. Don't go on your knees and bow your head down before you've even lost the fight. Go into the fight with your head held high, because there's always a puncher's luck.
This could almost be the biggest game in our history.
Yeah.
You could say it could be the biggest game in Manchester United's history to protect that legacy.
I think also, just to obviously add to what you're saying, Faz, I think for me personally, this could be a watershed moment. I mean, obviously Ten Hag said all eras come to an end, and this could be basically the pinnacle of it, that saying. I mean, it would be absolutely poetic, the fact that we beat Man City off the back of what he said. Obviously, we've seen what's happened to Liverpool. For me, I think it's written. Just like Luton, Wembley was red, so we're going to run it back. It's going to be red back-to-back weekends. Look, at the end of the day, as Faz rightfully said, we've beaten every single team at home this season. Yes, people will laugh and say your away record's not good, but we went to Camp Nou and played them off the park. I'm sorry, they just won the league by 15 points. I mean, if we can do that against Barcelona, we could do that against anyone. And Man City, to be fair, yes, granted, they're flying at the moment, but we've beaten him. We've beaten him this season. Rashford got the winner. Bruno, obviously, yeah, we had a bit of fortune in that game, but we were well within that game for 80 minutes prior to the goal even occurring. Obviously, we were a bit fortunate with the decision, but nevertheless, for me, the players got to fight for every single ball. It's a massive shame that Martinez isn't there, because he embodies everything that you'd want in that final. He's a warrior, and you know he'll die on the pitch for that. But for me, we've got players like Varane and Casemiro. I mean, they got more Champions League than Man City got appearances. I mean, at the end of the day, we've got the winners in there. We've got the winners in there. People will say, you know, Man City, they have been the team of late, but Casemiro and Varane been there, done that, got the T-shirt. They've done everything that you need to do in club football. And speaking of Ten Hag, he needs to have that same speech that he just had on our pitch. I mean, I was absolutely galvanised off the back of what he just said. Obviously, you said you got chills, and he needs to bring that same passion. And I do think the players understand the severity of the game, but most importantly, is one thing understanding and one thing applying it. It's important that they don't allow the occasion to get to them. That's my biggest concern, the mentality of the players, to ensure that they're there from minute one. I keep going back to that moment against Liverpool very early in the season at home, obviously not 7-0, but the game at home when Martinez bumped Salah, that was a moment that you know what, you looked at that game and you thought that was the moment that won us the game, because Salah didn't expect that from Martinez. Obviously they knew they were in for the game, and that radiates throughout the entirety of the team. I just want our players to go out there and fight for every single ball, every single 50-50. Every single player needs to bleed on that pitch if they have to win that game, and I think that's the most important thing. I mean, I don't want us to go out without fighting for every single ball. You know, as Faz said, is, you know, obviously the trophy is a big part of that, but this is about pride. You know, at the end of the day, this is Man City, this is a derby, and this is a leveler. We need to make sure that we're painting the town red. So I'm confident. I back Ten Hag. You know, they're scared of Rashford. I mean, they can't hack Rashford. Martial, he hasn't had a great end to the season, but he is due a masterclass against City, and he loves scoring against them. So we're going into that game with a lot of confidence as well. And even Sancho, to be fair to him, he's ended the season quite well. So
and City lost today.
Yeah. Brentford have taken 6 out of 6 points against them, haven't they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, look, we've got
That's a momentum denter, isn't it?
We've got a lot of positives going into the game. We've got players that can hurt them, and Pep would be well aware of that. I mean, Rashford can just, you know, Rashford can hurt anyone on the break. He's unplayable.
They've not won in the last 2, so, you know, they're on some poor form at the moment, so we have to capitalise on that. And Wembley's our second home. We've won there twice, and we all know how good our home form is, so it's up to us.
They'll only have 50 fans anyways. 5 of them are the ones that regulars, and then the rest are just, I don't know,
people off the street
around
free
Wembley,
tickets,
yeah. And we'll be taking over Wembley, so yeah.
For sure.
I mean, that sounds like a perfect way to round it off, in all honesty. Manchester United finish the campaign in 3rd position. It's been a very up and down season, highs and lows. Some weeks we've been absolutely tormented. Other weeks for 1 week we mounted a title charge. So hopefully we can do it for longer than a week. But guys, don't forget to head over to retrofootballkits.co.uk, 10% off site-wide, and also you can get an extra 10% off using the code TUS10. Get your hands on some of these lovely bad boys. Look at these, absolutely splendid. And yeah, leave a like, subscribe on your way out. We will see you There'll be another fan forum, obviously, after the FA Cup final. And hopefully, no, not hopefully. None of this hopefully.
Come on.
None
Come
of this
on, Chris.
hopefully.
We're going to have it.
Come on, Charlie, fill it around.
It will be Manchester United lifting that FA Cup trophy.
Go on the way!
United! Come on.
And that's that all said and done. We'll catch you later.